بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته جميعا. مساكم الله بالخير. يسعدني ويشرفني أني أرحب بكم اليوم في هذا اللقاء اللي بنلقي فيه نبذة عن عمليات وأداء البنك في خلال الفترة الماضية من 2026 إن شاء الله، مع الشكر والتقدير لحضوركم معنا اليوم. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us today in this session where we are going to be talking about the financial performance and results of the bank over the last period of 2026. With me here today are my colleagues, Sheikh Al-Farsi, Deputy CEO Operations, and my colleague Ganesh, who's Deputy CEO Investment Banking and Finance. طبعا الشريحة الأولى هي شريحة يعني من الأمور الإدارية فقط، سرد نقط إخلاء المسؤولية من ناحية اتخاذ قرارات بناء على هذه المعلومات أو كذا، أو نحن لا نشجع أو يعني من خلال هذا الإلقاء ليس تشجيعا للاستثمار أو اتخاذ أي قرارات استثمارية. The first slide is our regular administrative slide in terms of disclaimers and so on, that this is a session for exchange of information. It's not an invitation to invest or take any decisions on investments. In terms of how I will be taking this forward, I will first talk about the operating environment in Oman. I will then move on to the banking sector and metrics within that. Then I will talk about Bank Muscat and its business lines, and then do a slight deep dive into some of the key financial highlights for the 6 months ending June 2026. بالنسبة لمحتويات هذا العرض بتكون في البداية بيئة العمل عامة الاقتصاد العماني، بعدين بتطرق إن شاء الله إلى القطاع المصرفي، وبعدها إلى أعمال وأنشطة البنك الأساسية، ومن بعد ذلك طبعا بدخل في الأداء المالي للبنك في خلال ال6 شهور الماضية. This slide, as we move through 2026, it's very pleasing and very encouraging to see that Oman does continue to demonstrate remarkable, actually, macroeconomic resilience. And this is despite the uncertainties that are there because of the regional conflicts and geopolitical events, as well as the global environment. What is particularly encouraging is that the country's resilience is now increasingly underpinned by structural reforms rather than commodity prices alone. IMF, in fact, has also acknowledged that the continued strength of Oman's macroeconomic fundamentals are supported by prudent fiscal management, low inflation, declining public debt, and very much sustained progress in economic diversification. The quality of economic growth has evolved over these past few years. Hydrocarbon production continues, while it continues to be influenced by OPEC commitments, etc. But non-hydrocarbon sectors, and this is the encouraging factor, continue to expand also at a healthy pace. And these are led by logistics, tourism, construction, manufacturing, agriculture, renewable energy, and other infrastructure projects. Also equally important, I think the reform agenda does continue to broaden. Beyond that fiscal consolidation that we have seen some years back, we're now seeing tangible progress in financial sector development, improvement in the business environment. The digital transformation is making good headway, investments in renewable energy, other areas as well. So these are all very positive factors that we are seeing in terms of the development of Oman's economy. Alongside, of course, all these fundamental developments, Oman continues to deepen its capital markets. The MSX is progressing very well on several initiatives to broaden market participation, attract international investors. Also, the restoration of investment grade sovereign ratings have enhanced investor confidence, improved countries' access to international capital markets, all very positive dynamics. Same time, implementation of the 11th five-year development plan, continued infrastructure investments, renewable energy, increasing private sector participation. All of these factors are expected to generate new investment opportunities and support actually the financial sector sustainable credit demand over the medium term. We do all, of course, have to remain mindful of the external risks, but we do derive strong comfort that Oman enters this phase from a position of strength. There are sound economic fundamentals, robust regulatory framework, well-capitalized banking system, and all of this provide a strong foundation for sustained economic growth and also financial sector growth. هذه الشريحة يعني توضح أن السلطنة والحمد لله تواصل ترسيخ مكانتها الاقتصادية، مرونتها الاقتصادية، وهذا رغم التحديات اللي يشهدها الاقتصاد العالمي وكذلك التحديات الجيوسياسية الإقليمية. ومن المؤشرات الواعدة بشكل خاص قوة الاقتصاد العماني أصبحت الآن تستند بشكل متزايد على السياسات الاقتصادية وليس على أسعار فقط. صندوق النقد الدولي أشاد باستمرار على قوة الأسس الاقتصادية الكلية لسلطنة عمان، هذا طبعا مدعوم كذلك بالإدارة المالية الحكيمة، انخفاض معدلات التضخم، تراجع الدين العام، والتطور المستمر في جهود التنويع الاقتصادي. القطاعات غير النفطية كذلك شهدت نمو بوتيرة إيجابية تقودها قطاعات الخدمات اللوجستية، السياحة، الإنشاءات، التصنيع، الزراعة، الطاقة المتجددة. كلها هذه مساهمة من القطاعات غير الهيدروكربونية وتظهر جودة وقوة واستقرار النمو الاقتصادي في السلطنة. كذلك يعني شهدنا إلى جانب ضبط الأوضاع المالية شهدنا تقدم ملموس والحمد لله في تطور القطاع المالي، تحسين بيئة الأعمال، تعزيز حوكمة الشركات، وكذلك التحول الرقمي والاستثمارات في البنية التحتية والطاقة المتجددة. ومع كل طبعا هذه التطورات الأساسية السلطنة تواصل كذلك تعزيز أسواق رأس المال بها. بورصة مسقط واصلت تنفيذ مبادرات عديدة يعني تهدف إلى توسيع قاعدة المشاركة في السوق، استقطاب المستثمرين الأجانب أو الدوليين. أسهمت كذلك استعادة التصنيفات السيادية إلى الدرجة الاستثمارية في تعزيز ثقة المستثمرين، تحسين قدرة السلطنة على الوصول إلى أسواق رأس المال العالمية. وكذلك في الوقت نفسه من المتوقع أن تسهم تنفيذ الخطة الخمسية الحادية عشر للتنمية استمرار هذه الاستثمارات في التطوير، وإلى جانب زيادة مشاركة القطاع الخاص وإيجاد فرص إن شاء الله استثمارية جديدة، وهذا بدوره سيساعد على دعم الطلب المستدام على الائتمان خلال المرحلة القادمة. وطبعا دائما احنا على الرغم من استمرارنا في مراقبة المخاطر الخارجية، لكننا نعتقد أن سلطنة عمان تدخل هذه المرحلة من موقع استقرار وثابت مستندة إلى أسس اقتصادية راسخة، إطار تنظيمي قوي، ونظام مصرفي يعني يتمتع والحمد لله برأس مال كافي، وهذا يوفر قاعدة ثابتة لتحقيق نمو اقتصادي ومالي مستدام إن شاء الله. This next slide is going to be about the banking sector. Of course, the most encouraging development during 2026 has been the broad-based acceleration in banking activity. Credit growth has continued to be robust across both corporate and the retail segments. reflects a healthy business confidence and continued infrastructure investments and also the growing private sector participation. At the same time, deposit growth has also remained equally strong, which provides the bank with a very healthy, a very stable funding base and excellent liquidity levels to support future lending. Another important trend in the banking sector is the continued growth of Islamic banking. It now represents around 1/5 of the financial sector in Oman, and it continues to gain good market share through healthy growth in both financing and deposits, which also reflects the customer confidence in Islamic banking, the customer acceptance, and product diversification. This growth in the financial sector has been achieved actually without compromising the strength of the banking system. Asset quality, in fact, remains resilient. Capital adequacy continues to be at good and comfortable levels above the regulatory requirements, and liquidity across the sector remains strong. While we look ahead, we also expect that the regulatory landscape will continue to evolve. The central bank has already initiated several prudential enhancements, including strengthened expectations around credit risk management, provisioning, governance, climate risk management. All of these we expect are measures to be further reinforcing the resilience of the banking sector, as well as aligning the regulatory framework with the evolving international standards. And from an industry perspective, continued economic diversification, increasing private sector investments, digital transformation, and the progressive development in the capital markets are expected to create new opportunities, obviously, for banks to support future growth, while also diversifying their revenue streams. بالنسبة لهذه الشريحة طبعا أبرز التطورات واللي هي تطرح عموما على القطاع المصرفي، أبرز التطورات خلال عام 2026 يتمثل طبعا في الوتيرة الإيجابية اللي شهدتها الأنشطة المصرفية بمختلف مجالاتها. نمو الائتمان حافظ على قوته في كل القطاعات، الشركات، الأفراد، وهذا طبعا يعكس تحسن الثقة في قطاع الأعمال، استمرارية الاستثمارات في مشاريع البنية الأساسية، وكذلك زيادة مساهمة ومشاركة القطاع الخاص في هذا النمو. في الوقت نفسه واصلت الودائع كذلك أداء قوي، وهذا وفر للبنوك قاعدة تمويل مستقرة، مستويات سيولة كافية، وذلك لدعم التوسع المستقبلي إن شاء الله في محفظة الإقراض. كذلك من التطورات المهمة استمرار نمو القطاع الصيرفة الإسلامية، حاليا يمثل حوالي 1/5 القطاع المصرفي، وهذا القطاع يواصل تعزيز حصته في السوق من خلال النمو الإيجابي في كل من التمويل والودائع، وطبعا هذا يعكس تزايد إقبال وثقة العملاء والزبائن في هذا القطاع وتنوع المنتجات والخدمات المقدمة في القطاع المصرفي. مهم كذلك نذكر أن كل هذا النمو في القطاع المصرفي عامة تحقق بدون التأثير على استقرار النظام المصرفي. البنوك تواصل يعني جهودها في الاستدامة في جودة الأصول والحفاظ على قوتها. نسبة كفاية رأس المال أعلى بكثير من المتطلبات الرقابية، مستويات السيولة في القطاع جدا جيدة. لما ننظر للمستقبل نتوقع استمرار تطور الإطار التنظيمي والرقابي، كذلك تستمر الجهات الرقابية في تطبيق عدد من التحسينات، وبما في ذلك تعزيز المتطلبات المتعلقة بإدارة مخاطر الائتمان، مخصصات والحوكمة، إدارة المخاطر المرتبطة بالمناخ وغيرها. كل هذه طبعا ستسهم في تعزيز مرونة ومتانة القطاع المصرفي. ومن منظور القطاع نفسه من المتوقع أن يؤدي استمرار التنويع الاقتصادي وزيادة استثمارات القطاع الخاص والتحول الرقمي والتطور التدريجي لأسواق رأس المال في السلطنة إلى خلق إن شاء الله فرص جديدة للبنوك لتكملة يعني دعم النمو الاقتصادي مع تنويع مصادر إيراداتها. This slide highlights the stable and resilient performance of the banking sector over the past few years. Throughout the period between 2020 and to the first half of 26, the sector has delivered consistent expansion growth. Total sector credit registered a compounded annual growth of about 6.4%, reflecting stable, sustainable lending activity across different market cycles. And that's important to highlight. Customer deposits showed also stronger growth, registering close to about 8% compounded annual growth rate over the same period, underscoring ongoing public confidence in the banking system and the highly favorable funding base. Profitability has also tracked an upward trajectory that's supported by very good double-digit growth in recent years. The combined profits of the top 7 Omani banks rose by roughly 10.6% in 2025 and maintained that same 10.6% year-on-year growth during the first half of 2026, which reflects strong operating momentum as well as disciplined balance sheet management. While we also look forward, we expect the banking sector's credit and deposits to continue expanding at the high single-digit rates, moving in step with the overall economic growth. Although short-term fluctuations in the global interest rates and the geopolitical events could affect asset quality trends and provisioning needs, the system remains absolutely well capitalized and prudently managed. Overall, the banking sector growth trajectory remains stable. It's supported by an excellent and robust macroeconomic framework and sustained operational momentum. الشريحة هذه تسلط الضوء على الأداء المستقر والإيجابي للقطاع المصرفي العماني خلال السنوات الماضية. خلال الفترة الممتدة من عام 2020 حتى النصف الأول من عام 26، القطاع واصل تحقيق نمو مستمر. سجل إجمالي الائتمان المصرفي للقطاع معدل نمو سنوي بلغ حوالي 6.4%، وهذا طبعا يعكس نشاط إقراضي مستقر ومستدام وجيد. الودائع كذلك شهدت نمو ملحوظ، سجلت معدل نمو سنوي مركب بقريب 8% خلال الفترة نفسها، وهذا طبعا يؤكد استمرار ثقة الزبائن في النظام المصرفي واستدامة قاعدة التمويل. الربحية كذلك أخذت مسار واضح في النمو، مدعومة بأداء جيد خلال السنوات الأخيرة. الأرباح المجمعة لأكبر 7 بنوك عمانية ارتفعت بحوالي 10.6% في عام 2025، وحافظت على هذا المعدل نفسه في نفس الفترة خلال النصف الأول من عام 2026، وهذا طبعا يعكس قوة الأداء التشغيلي والإدارة المنضبطة للميزانية والأصول. وبالنسبة لنظرتنا إلى المستقبل، نتوقع أن يواصل القطاع نمو الائتمان والودائع بمستويات مستدامة بما يتماشى مع وتيرة النمو الاقتصادي في السلطنة. وعلى الرغم من أن يعني التقلبات الحالية وهي نعتقد أنها قصيرة الأجل، خاصة إن شاء الله في أسعار الفائدة والتطورات الجيوسياسية، قد يكون هناك تأثير على جودة الأصول ومتطلبات المخصصات، إلا أن القطاع يظل يتمتع برأس مال كافي وإدارة سليمة وحصيفة. بشكل عام نعتقد أن القطاع المصرفي سيواصل النمو بشكل مستقر، مدعوم بإطار اقتصادي كلي راسخ ونهج تشغيلي مستدام. The next slide, I'm going to be talking about the bank and bank-specific operations. So we continue with our strategy and vision in terms of our key strategic pillars, which are customer centricity and market leadership, and also efficiency and productivity and innovation. All of these pillars are focused on serving our stakeholders. The bank will continue to focus on leveraging its strong branch value, its strong financial position, as well as its strong human resources to deliver the best possible values to all our stakeholders. الشرائح القادمة ستكون عن البنك. طبعا بملخص رؤية البنك تعتمد على الركائز الاستراتيجية الأساسية، وهي تعزيز خدمة الزبائن، الريادة في السوق، كفاءة، الإنتاجية، والتطوير والإبداع. كلها هذه الركائز يعني تهدف إلى خدمة كافة شرائح الشركاء المعنيين. سنواصل البنك التركيز على الاستفادة من شبكة فروع القوية، مركزه المالي، كفاءة الموارد البشرية فيه، وهذا طبعا لتقديم أفضل قيمة ممكنة للمعنيين بمصالحه، ودائما نسعى للتطوير كذلك. This slide provides an overview of the bank's diversified business model and the contribution of our key segments. Our diversified business verticals have consistently contributed very well to our earnings and stability and growth. Our corporate banking division remains a foundational pillar for the bank. It represents around 1/3 of total assets, while it also maintains a similar share of the overall profitability. This segment continues to capitalize on its deep expertise, finance, and strong relationships with our corporate clients. Personal banking is also another primary contributor, which accounts for about 26% of the bank's assets. It generates also around 34% of total profits. We have the largest retail distribution network in Oman and a very strong customer franchise, and this segment continues to be a key driver of the bank's profitability. Wholesale banking contributes around 25% of both total assets and profits, providing an absolutely important balance and diversification in our revenue streams. Our Islamic banking segment also continues to have the highest market share in terms of banking assets in Oman, which demonstrates steady and healthy expansion since its launch. Our international operations now continue to be a segment that, while relatively it is smaller in terms of total assets, has contributed to around 7% of our net profit during the first 6 months of 2026, also contributing to a highly diversified portfolio, which the bank is very much focused on. Our funding base also, as you can see on the right side below, is also quite robust. It's driven by a strong retail deposit base, and it's supported by corporate and institutional deposits as well. هذه الشريحة تقدم نظرة عامة على نموذج أعمال البنك بتنوعها ومساهمة القطاعات التشغيلية الرئيسية. طبعا قطاع الخدمات المصرفية للشركات هو ركيزة أساسية للبنك، يساهم بحوالي ثلث إجمالي الأصول ونفس الحصة تقريبا الثلث من إجمالي الربحية. وهذا القطاع يستفيد من خبراته القوية في تمويل المشاريع وعلاقاته مع الشركات والمؤسسات. وكذلك قطاع الخدمات المصرفية للأفراد أحد المساهمين الرئيسيين في أرباح البنك، يمثل حوالي 26% من قاعدة أصول البنك، ويساهم بما يقارب ب 34% من إجمالي الأرباح. وطبعا هذا القطاع يمتلك أكبر شركة توزيع للخدمات المصرفية للأفراد في السلطنة وقاعدة زبائن واسعة، ويواصل دوره كمحرك رئيسي للربحية في البنك. كذلك قطاع الخدمات المصرفية المتخصصة حوالي 25% من إجمالي الأصول والأرباح، ويوفر توازن مهم جدا وتنوع في مصادر الأعمال. حصة قطاع الصيرفة الإسلامية ميثاق، وواصلت حفاظها على الصدارة في السوق للأصول المصرفية الإسلامية، وهذا الحمد لله يعكس نمو مستقر منذ إطلاقها. القطاع العمليات الدولية على الرغم من صغر حجمها نسبيا ولكن من حيث إجمالي الأصول، لكنها ساهمت بنسبة 7% من صافي أرباح البنك خلال الأشهر 6 من عام 2026. كذلك موضح في الرسم البياني البنك يحافظ على محفظة قروض متنوعة بدرجة عالية، وتتميز قاعدة التمويل لدينا تمويل البنك يعني بمتانة مدعومة بودائع الأفراد إلى جانب ودائع المؤسسات. In terms of the key financial highlights for the period ending June 30th, this slide summarizes the bank's financial performance for the 6 months ending June 26. The bank continued strong momentum. It delivered resilient financial performance while successfully executing also its long-term strategic priorities. Our top line performance remained strong despite all of the ongoing global and regional challenges. Overall, the bank delivered a strong performance with net profits increasing by about 9.3%, 137.5 million for the half year, which reflects quite a healthy business growth and also the credit management. Revenue growth remained steady, with non-interest income recording a very strong growth of 12.7%, mainly due to growth in our business as well as higher investment income. Revenue was also firmly supported by net interest income and Islamic financing income. Operating expenses increased by about 5.8% relative and contributing to the growth of business, which is mainly in terms of expansion in our administrative and activities and infrastructure expansion, as well as technology investments. The bank's loan portfolio expanded by about 6.3%, while the deposit portfolio registered a growth of 13.2%. In terms of asset quality, total provision coverage stands at 170% loans. And net impairment charges, in fact, have during the first half have reduced by around 20% compared to the previous year. Overall, the bank's agile approach in balance sheet management, strong funding dynamics, growing contribution from a diversified teams have definitely enabled us to deliver the result of the period ending third. تعرض هذه الشريحة الأداء المالي للبنك خلال الأشهر الستة الماضية. في يونيو 2026 الحمد لله البنك واصل الأداء بوتيرة تشغيلية قوية، محقق أداء مالي جيد مع استمرار طبعا في تنفيذ كل استراتيجياتنا طويلة الأجل بنجاح. حافظت إيرادات البنك على أداء قوي رغم استمرار التحديات العالمية والإقليمية، وبشكل عام البنك حقق أداء طيب. ارتفع صافي الربح بنسبة 9.3% ليصل إلى 137.5 ريال عمان اسبوعا. طبعا الأعمال والإدارة المنضبطة للمخاطر الائتمانية. واصلت الإيرادات غير الممولة واصلت نموها بشكل جدا جيد بنسبة 12.7%، مدعومة طبعا بشكل رئيسي بسبب زيادة حجم الأعمال، ارتفاع دخل الاستثمارات، إلى جانب الأداء لصافي دخل فوائد وإيرادات التمويل الإسلامي. المصروفات التشغيلية بشكل طبيعي طبعا ارتفعت بنسبة 5.8%. هذا متماشيا مع نمو الأعمال وتوسع الأنشطة والاستثمارات في التطوير والتقنيات الحديثة. إجمالي محفظة القروض نمت بتقريبا 6.3%، ومحفظة الودائع نمت ب 13.2%. جودة الأصول ما زالت يعني محافظ عليها. إجمالي تغطية المخصصات تقريبا 170% من القروض المتعثرة، وهذا طبعا يعكس متانة مستويات المخصصات اللي يحافظ عليها البنك. كذلك صافي مخصصات التعثر انخفض خلال النصف الأول من عام 2026 بنحو 20% مقارنة بالفترة نفسها من العام السابق، وهذا طبعا يعزو إلى جودة الأصول يعني بالنسبة للبنك والمخصصات اللي مرصودة سابقا. بشكل عام أسهم النهج والسياسات المستدامة اللي يتبعها البنك دائما في إدارة الأعمال، قوة مصادر التمويل، النمو المستمر في مساهمة مصادر الدخل المتنوعة في تحقيق هذه النتائج الجيدة الحمد لله للفترة المنتهية في 30 يونيو 2026. This slide just provides a quick overview of the bank's operating performance over the past few years. You can see that it has maintained a stable net interest margin over the past few years. Operating income has also continued to grow steadily, with non-funded income contribution to total income of around 30%, while we have also maintained an excellent cost discipline with the cost-to-income ratio at 37.8%. The ROE of the bank has also witnessed significant improvements from the lower levels of 10.5% in 22 to reach 13.5% as of June 26. Similarly, for the same period, the bank's ROA continued its positive trajectory, reaching about 1.75%. هذه الشريحة تعرض لمحة سريعة عن الأداء التشغيلي للبنك خلال السنوات الأخيرة. وكما هو ملاحظ، البنك حافظ على استقرار صافي هامش الفائدة خلال السنوات الخمس. كذلك الدخل التشغيلي حقق نمو مستقر، ارتفاع مساهمة الإيرادات غير الممولة في إجمالي الدخل إلى نحو 30%. وكذلك حافظنا على انضباط فعال جدا في إدارة التكاليف، حيث استقر طبعا معدل التكلفة إلى الدخل عند مستوى 37.8%، وهذا باعتقادي هو الأقل من بين أقراننا في البنوك في السلطنة، وقد يكون من الأقل في المنطقة كذلك. شهد العائد على حقوق الملكية طبعا تحسن كذلك ملحوظ، ارتفع من مستويات منخفضة من كان في 2022 تقريبا 10.5%، الآن وصل إلى 13.5%، نمو جدا ممتاز بالنسبة للعائد للمساهمين. في الوقت ذاته واصل العائد على الأصول إلى تحقيق كذلك نمو إيجابي وصل إلى 1.75%. This slide provides an overview of the bank, which I have talked about. It is well disciplined, well managed. The growth portfolio increased by 6.1% after growing the base by 4.5% in 2025. The NPL ratio have in fact remained at around 3 to 4%, while the coverage ratio continues to be at at the range of 160 to 174% during the last 5 years. هذه الشريحة يعني تعرض نبذة حول جودة الأصول على مدار السنوات الماضية. كما ذكرت سابقا، إجمالي محفظة القروض البنك تميز بالتنوع، ويتم إدارتها من خلال إطار ائتماني مدروس، حيث زادت المحفظة في خلال فترة من يناير إلى يونيو تقريبا 6%، وهذا مقارنة ب 2025 4.5%. كذلك الحفاظ على نسبة القروض المتعثرة عند حوالي 3 إلى 4% تقريبا في نفس هذه الفترة. وكذلك معدلات التغطية معدلات جدا إيجابية في خلال ال5 سنوات الماضية، وهذا طبعا يعكس سياسات جدا رشيدة في مخاطر. This is the last slide highlighting the funding and liquidity position of the bank. It has a well-balanced funding mix of around 70 to 72% coming from customer deposits, and the balance after the 72% comes from interbank borrowings and equity. This structure has remained consistent and highly stable over the past few years. High level of liquid assets over the last 5 years. And the capital position is also one of the highest amongst Omani peers and one of the strongest also amongst the GCC peers as well. في هذه الشريحة تشرح يعني تمويل السيولة لدى البنك. هناك مزيج متوازن للتمويل، تقريبا 70% يأتي من ودائع الزبائن، والباقي يأتي من التمويل من المؤسسات المصرفية الأخرى ورأس مال البنك. وهذا الوضع طبعا ظل مستقر خلال السنوات القليلة الماضية، وهناك مستوى عالي من الأصول وكذلك مركز رأس المال للبنك من أعلى المراكز بين أقرانه في السلطنة، واحد أقوى المراكز بين أقرانه في دول المنطقة. This brings us to the end of our slide. We will now move to the Q&A session. If you have a question, please use the raise hand functionality and we shall unmute you. I take this opportunity to thank you all for participating with us and wish everyone the best. نصل بهذا إلى نهاية العرض التقديمي. ننتقل الآن إلى فقرة الإجابة على الأسئلة. إذا كان لديكم أي استفسار يرجى استخدام إشارة رفع اليد، وسنعطي الحضور فرصة لطرح الأسئلة إن شاء الله. كذلك أنتهز الفرصة لأجدد الشكر لكم جميعا على حضوركم، متمنيا لكم التوفيق وفي انتظار أسئلتكم. طمنينا عنكم أولا.
مساء الخير شيخ وليد، يعطيك العافية. الحمد لله all is good. الحمد لله.
الحمد لله. الله يحفظكم جميعا هناك في البحرين. الله يحفظكم.
Allah يسلمك. Thank you so much for the thorough presentation, and thanks to the Bank Muscat's management for this. And obviously, congratulations on a really good quarter. My question is regarding the fee income, which has been very robust, and I've discussed this earlier as well with the Deputy CEO, but just wanted to make sure going forward, not looking here at guidance, just to get a sense that is this the expected run rate for the second half at this point to see such levels of fee income growth? And I mean, I've noticed that consistently it's always sit around, you know, the 17-18% of revenue. So is that safe to expect going forward? And then regarding the loan growth, which has been solid and 6% year to date, heading into the second half, do you think that, you know, Bank Muscat can close the year at a high single-digit loan growth? And would that imply a bit of a slower half versus the first half?
Thank you. Okay, I will try to answer with the best of prudence. And in terms of loan, I'll answer the second one. In terms of loan growth, I don't think there are dynamics that give us whether the first half is stronger, the second half will be stronger. But what I can say is that we have a decent pipeline for the second half that already, we're seeing it quite clearly. In terms of growth, yeah, I can expect between 6 to 7% probably over the second half if all goes well and you know. And the geopolitical situation doesn't impact significantly certain plans. Also, the view on interest rates is a factor. But all else being equal, I think we're seeing, we have visibility on some pipeline deals, and we expect it to be better, if not as it at or better.
عفوا شيخ وليد بس استيضاح بسيط. You said 6 to 7% over the second half. That's like, are we talking about an additional 6%, or we're talking about that's the range for the year?
I will give this to additional or bits.
Thank you, Sumaya. I think what Mr. Walid meant is it's for the year-on-year growth.
Okay.
The 6% we have seen from last year June. But full year, I think they expect to be a little elevated than the 6% level based on the dates we have. So, and also just to touch upon the question you had raised earlier, in terms of the growth, yes, we have been doing on the higher end of the single-digit or double-digit type of growth. which is contributed from multiple areas. We expect fee income to outperform the NII growth. However, a double digit or a high single digit depends on number of factors, including the market factors. Because as you have been tracking, we have the core income, commission and fees, transaction related, and the investment book, which also significantly contributed over the last 2 to 3 years. So our endeavor is to have a high single digit growth on the fee income. Contribution of fee income to total income would be in that range of what you've been seeing, around 30%.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much, Ganesh. Thanks, Sheikh Walid.
Thank you. Hi, Joyce. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Sheikh.
Hi, good afternoon.
Congratulations on the good set of numbers.
Thank you.
and,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you for the presentation as well. It is very exhaustive. But two questions. One is on the regulatory changes that has happened during the last 6 months. One, CBO has asked banks to spin off their Islamic banking windows. So, what are your thoughts on this? And basically, you being the owner of the franchisee, the largest franchisee of Islamic banking in Oman, and I would like to pick your brain on what are your thoughts on the sector as a whole. How do you see this playing out? And is there any specific timelines suggested by CBO for completing this process? The second one is on the regulatory changes, but that's more related to the FSA, which is asked in the new rules banks to spin off their investment banking activities. So, how do you see these two developments panning out over the coming 2-3 years?
Okay, thank you very much. Very important questions. And the key thing is, one thing is for sure, is that both the sector as well as observers to the sector have seen this coming for a number of years now. So it's not like it's coming as a surprise. Both of these, the FSA and the CBO. So it's always been in the back of our minds that this is coming. What is good actually now, is that the timelines give enough planning and execution stages for the banking sector to deliver on these mandates. In terms of Islamic banking and the mandate to spin off the windows, again, it's also something that has been in the pipeline for the regulators some time. They have given a timeline which extends to, this is not confidential, is it?
Circular, but no, public domain, we don't know. But
anyways,
it's not public. It's not confidential. If you're talking about December 31st, it's not.
Okay, sorry, but it gives enough time. Let me put it this way. It gives a decent time for all banks to plan, capitalize, and it's not going to be done over a very short period. The central bank has been very prudent in giving this because they are very clear on wanting it to succeed. And the aim of this, in my view, and I believe also several of my colleagues in the sector, is to actually strengthen the Islamic banking sector and to provide more diversity for customers. So I am absolutely positive about this. And as a bank, we're absolutely positive about it. So it really, on a number of fronts, it gives a a level of development for the sector that has not been seen before. It diversifies also the revenue base for the banks, and a number of different factors. I see it as definitely a positive. Initially, and we have to be also clear that initially there will be certain trade-offs, because obviously the cost base will increase. But I think this will all be augmented by better, operating results moving forward after that in terms of the medium to long term. So it's overall a positive story. The FSA spin-off, it is, I believe, still in a draft stage. It has not been fully published, but also that is a very positive development in terms of asking banks to spin off certain activities of investment banking and to retain some. This was always there in discussion forums between banks and FSA, so it's not really a surprise. I think putting a framework for it is also a positive development. And the timelines, I believe, give also a good opportunity for the banks to plan and execute it that actually looks after its interests and its shareholders' interests. Does that answer your question, Joyce?
Very much, Sheikh. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Sheikh, one more question, if I may.
Sure, go
That's
ahead.
on the credit side. It has always meant that your plan was to maintain the growth along with the market at market rate. And but over the last 18 months or so, we are seeing that the smaller banks are gaining a significant market share, and Bank Muscat is lagging behind the market growth. So could you please discuss the strategy for balance sheet expansion of Bank Muscat, especially when we are seeing double-digit growth for the sector, and you are looking at somewhere around 6 to 7% on credit growth?
Yeah, sure, no problem, absolutely. Actually, I will answer that in two ways. One, first, Joyce, I don't have to give you this. You already know it. You see it. We're starting from a much higher base than our colleagues in the other banks. So our growth in terms of percentages, the volume that is required to achieve those percentages is substantial. So it comes at if you look at it from a market share perspective, it's still a healthy chunk. But nevertheless, what's also important, which is the second piece, is that we are very clear when it comes to our credit quality, approach to credit acquisition and credit growth. But also, that's also as part of my second piece. It's very important to note that during the first 6 months of 2025, the retail segment has not grown as much as the growth in the market with the other banks' retail segments, and that was intentional, Joyce, because the pricing and the competition on pricing within that segment was really not worth those growth levels, in fact, for us. So it was very important for us to balance growth objectives with the bottom line objectives. Now that story, we believe, is going to be a little bit different in the second half in 2026 for the retail credit side. Because we're also becoming a little more aggressive, but also very prudent when it comes to profitability and risk. Plus the significant developments and really on track developments of these urban real estate areas like Sultan Haytham City and others. They're getting good traction, and we expect some growth, some in the second half in 26, but also beyond that.
Sure. Thank you very much. And how will you connect this to your capital levels? Right now, you've always maintained about 20% on the capital ratios, but right now it has come down to somewhere around 18.7. It is still healthy, but it's a slight deviation from the earlier trends. So
Yeah,
are
yeah, go ahead.
yeah, are there any plans for enhancing this capital ratios, or when you're talking about higher growth rates, what kind of plans do you have for capital ratio improvements? Or is there any target rates that you are looking at, you're comfortable with?
We have a floor. We have a floor of about 17.5%. And we're really much above that. And I think what is good is that it's excellent utilization of capital, good returns to the shareholders at 13.5% return on equity. And the more we're able to grow while actually utilizing our capital, we will not hesitate to continue to grow, because we owe it to the shareholders to actually maximize our deployment of the capital that we have. 17.5% is still more than 2% above the regulatory, 3% above the regulatory minimums. So I think we're in good shape. We can still manage that, but we're only going to be doing that if the credit and the expansion actually makes sense. So we're not going to be just as usual. And you know us, you know the bank. We will go after good growth in credit and deployment of capital, but we will also be careful in the markets and the segments we go for. Does that answer, Joy?
Very much. And thank you very much. That's it from my side. Wish you all the best.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Right. So I think I don't see any questions. Sundar. Okay, Sundar, please.
Hi, Sheikh Walid, how are you? Nice to meet you again. Couple of questions from my end, just to follow up with Joy's question. Because now with all these regulations and MITAC being the largest among the Islamic windows, do you see any kind of consolidation? Because that is what we could see, because these regulations are trying to say okay, independent Islamic banks or a standalone entities. We are already seeing a kind of one merger which is happening between NISWA and analysts that's going on. How do you see MITAC strategy? Because then eventually you'll not be the largest one. Probably you will try to be kind of some strategies to make sure you're the largest there. Or what is your strategy on that? Do you see any more consolidation in the market happening on that front? And also, the second question is on the same aspect of because with the way the market has panned out in the last 2 years, there has been competition in the market, which is healthy. You always say that. And you have been trying, your market share is, you're keeping holding on the market share, but definitely there is a kind of portion is there. How do you see that? Because with large players, with the larger banks or your competitors coming out with more aggressive strategies, I think you're not. I've been looking at the bank for the last 18 years. You have been always have that conservatism with you. How do you see that competition coming in? It's a good competition. It's coming up. How do you see that? You want to get the market share intact, or how do you will place your strategy in the coming period? That's my question.
Thank you, Sundar. All very good questions. I will answer the first one in fundamentals. I will not say what MITAC is going to do or what we are not going to do. But here are the different scenarios that could happen. Yes, for sure, there would be possible. There are 3 options that banks can look at when it comes to implementing this circular. One is merge. Second is acquire another window or a full-fledged Islamic bank acquiring a window. Third is actually close. So all of these options are available. In my belief, there will be consolidations, yes, for sure. And it all depends on how these institutions, whether it's Mithaq or move forward in terms of handling the new competition that's going to be there. So all these options are available and definitely will be looked at by all the different windows and to see what is best to move forward. But Mithaq's numbers are clear. As far as capital, it has the highest capital as of today. Both capital and retained paid-in capital and retained earnings, the highest amongst the. So whether it merges or stands alone, all of these are definitely on the table. So, but it's still it's well capitalized as an institution. In terms of the second question, yes, we have seen that before. It's not the first time that aggressive competition comes into pricing and some market share erosion happens. And we are quite capable as a bank from a bandwidth perspective to actually very much keep up with that pace and keep up with that competition, probably better than others. It comes from two areas. One is our strong and solid funding base that we have, whether it's in CASA or in deposits, term deposits, but also in terms of our diversified revenue streams. They are a very important pillar for us, not only in terms of different businesses, but also geographically. International used to be a drag for Bank Muscat. Today, it generates 7% of net profit. That's definitely a good hedge against certain competitive pressures from Oman market. Our non-funded growing substantially. Our wholesale banking business is doing excellent in terms of contributing to our diversification effort. So we focus on fundamentals, Sundar, to combat competitive pressures on our top line, because that's the only way you can do it. But moving along that same route of compromising asset quality and pricing and profitability is not the way we have done it in the past. And as we have proven over the past 2 years, it has helped us immensely. If you look at our all the different metrics in terms of returns per employee, returns per branches, and many other metrics, substantially higher than other banks. And I'm not talking just Oman. I'm talking even within the region. So that's how I would. That's how our strategy is. We will diversify, but we will not fall into the trap of lower quality assets and compromising on returns, risk and reward metrics. Okay. Anybody else?
Thanks, Walid. I think one follow-up on this, because since we have been talking about Islamic banking, if you look at Islamic banking within Mithaq also over the years, I do see like, okay, you're the largest in terms of the window, but in terms of the return metrics, it is still not like an attractive return, right? You make like a reasonable profit, but not really a substantial. Do you see this independent banking kind of setup will add more cost, like what you have been saying earlier? That would be initial days, probably furthermore ROE erosion for this Windows or a dedicated Islamic bank, right? Because that's one segment. Still, we are not able to understand why the rationale of making it, or still the segment is not giving the right return for the shareholders' perspective. Do you see that's the way, or how do you see Mithaq coming out of this low ROE scenario to an improve? Do you see a with this or market pie is big? Are we missing something here?
Yes, Sundar. When we talk about Islamic banking in Oman, we're talking about from 2013 till today, 13 years, compared to a conventional banking that have been established since the 50s with the British Bank of the Middle East. So it's not easy for all Islamic windows and banks to compete, because they're not just competing with each other. They are competing with conventional banks. And for that, it's fundamentally, if you look at the balance sheets of most windows and also full-fledged banks, institutional deposits form a large part of it. Customer deposits, CASA, are not the same ratios as the conventional banks. So that, in and of itself, provides a cost of fund base that is higher than the conventional banks. And therefore, profitability metrics get impacted, because their yields cannot compete if they have to match the net interest margins of the conventional banks. So yes, they have to settle with lower net profit margins, and while at the same time service a high capital, service higher funding base, and customer acquisition becomes also quite difficult in the face of conventional banks. Now, what is going to help, I believe, is that when the playing field becomes level for everybody, it's going to still create more competition within the newly established banks. But I think it's also going to provide better opportunity for more marketing, more customer reach, more development in terms of products and services. I think that's because today, even products and services within the Islamic banking are limited by virtue of certain directions where they, either because of technology, because of the Sharia compliance aspect, because of product features and so on and so forth. We don't have the same products, and prudently so. I'm not saying, but Oman doesn't have, for example, the same products as Saudi, doesn't have the same products as Malaysia. And these are for growth but then prudently, they are not permitted in Oman. So again, that contributes quite a bit to the change in the different fundamentals between conventional and Islamic, as well as between Islamic in Oman and Islamic outside of Oman. But it remains a good contributor. I will close with this. It does remain as a good contributor for shareholders, despite the fact that it is not achieving the same results as the conventional. Those are two different product offering, two different segments, but it's very important for banks to actually be in there, because it's a segment that needs to continue to be served and still provides positive returns. So I'm not seeing any more questions. I think I will close it for now. I thank you all very much for joining us today, and I wish you a very nice weekend. لكم الشكر الجزيل جميعا على مشاركتكم معنا اليوم، مع كل تحية وتقدير، وتمنياتي لكم بإجازة سعيدة. شكرا.